Today we are talking about how cells obtain energy, and we talked about this yesterday. Again, these textbook assignments are supplemental to our lessons that we're already learning. Danny, can I have you read our objective and our key terms for today? He is the man.
The key terms or the objective?
Objective and the key terms. So our objective, what is it?
Describe the process that cells use to get energy.
All right.
And then key terms, energy, the ability to do work or cause change. Go to the food making process in plants and other organisms that use sunlight. Glucose, essential type of sugar, and fermentation process by which your cell releases energy from food without using oxygen.
Very good. All right, so we have talked about all of those key terms already, except for energy. We really haven't talked about it in detail, but energy is the ability to do work or cause change. Go ahead. Thank you, Dan. So all things need to use energy or get energy, and we're going to describe how that happens. Yes, we have talked about this already. Okay? Yes, it is a supplement. It is an addition. It helps you fully understand it by attacking it from the textbook's perspective while listening and adding it to what we have talked about already. Questions 1 through 7. Okay. All right, cells and energy. Here we go. Cells perform many important activities such as growing, repairing structures, creating new cell parts, and reproducing. All of these activities require energy. Energy is the ability to do work or cause change. Energy can be found in many forms. The sun provides energy in the form of light. The food you eat provides energy in the form of nutrients. Okay? And then the question asks, what is energy? Energy is the ability to do work or cause change. Okay? You don't have to answer that. Remember, we only answer the questions on the odd pages. So right now we're on page 54, which is even, and we answer the questions on the odd, the checking concepts and thinking critically. Okay? So moving on to photosynthesis. We talked about this in great detail on both Monday and Tuesday. Okay? And there are resources for you to learn more about that online if you so choose. And we're going to read more about it here. Photosynthesis. Plant cells have the ability to use the energy from the sun to make food. This process is called photosynthesis. Photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplast. We knew that, right? During photosynthesis, plants take in carbon dioxide and water. We also knew that. Those are reactants. The sun's energy is used to change these molecules into food and oxygen. We knew that. The food produced by the chloroplast is sugar. We knew that. It can be stored in a plant and used later as a source of nutrients for the plants. Only organisms that have chloroplasts can perform photosynthesis. There are some organisms, like bacteria, some bacteria, algae, that can perform photosynthesis as well. But mostly we think of plants. Here is a pretty good drawing of a chloroplast, similar to what we've drawn a couple times now. Okay. In comes water, carbon dioxide, and sunlight. Out comes oxygen and sugar. Right? Okay, cool. Next one is cellular respiration. This is one we talked about yesterday at great length. Cellular respiration. When a plant needs to use some of its stored sugar, it breaks down into a simple sugar called glucose. The glucose is used in a process called cellular respiration. Cellular respiration takes place in the mitochondria of the cell, the powerhouse. We knew that. During cellular respiration, glucose is broken down into hydrogen and carbon molecules. These molecules then combine with oxygen to form carbon dioxide and water. This process releases energy for use by the cell. We knew that. So right here, all that equation is on the board, right? Breaking down the glucose over there. Oops. Glucose on the left side plus oxygen yields over here 32 ATP. That's the energy. And then we have water and carbon dioxide as byproducts. Questions on that? Okay. Cells that do not contain chloroplasts cannot make their own food. They must take in energy from their environment. Animal cells are examples of this kind of cell. For example, an elephant gets energy from the plant material it eats. You get energy from the foods that you eat. After the food is digested, nutrient molecules enter the cell. The nutrients are sent to the mitochondria, and they are used to release energy during cellular respiration. We're on page 54. Okay, everybody with me so far? Okay. Next one is the thing that we began talking about yesterday as well, and that is fermentation. Sometimes respiration must take place when there is no oxygen available. Certain plants and other organisms called yeast have the ability to carry out respiration without using oxygen. This process is called fermentation. During fermentation, cells break down sugar and give off carbon dioxide and alcohol molecules in the process. Fermentation is used in baking to help make bread rise. When yeast cells are mixed with the dough, bubbles of carbon dioxide are produced during fermentation. These carbon dioxide bubbles actually force the dough to expand. As a result, the dough rises. Anyone ever you make bread at home? Or have their parents make bread or whoever? Yeah? Right? That bread rises. It starts pretty flat and it ends up being much taller due to the carbon dioxide. Okay? Then let's talk about checking concepts. Number one, everyone needs to be writing this down.
It's a really nice thing. We would all be like, you know.
1%. Okay, number one. Plants make food during what? Jake? Photosynthesis. Number one, write in a complete sentence. Plants make food during photosynthesis. Complete sentence. Plants make food during photosynthesis. Number two. Sorry. Number two, anyone want to attack that one for me? Bueller, go ahead. Yeah, read the whole thing. It can be. What's the other one? When oxygen is present, Zach. Starts with a C. No, that's a product of it. Cellular. Yep, so food is turned into energy during cellular respiration. There you go. Fermentation, it can be. It's not as efficient. It's not the body's preferred way. Okay? Very good. Number 3, animals must get their energy from what? Yeah.
The food they eat.
The food they eat. Animals must get their energy from the food they eat. That's number 3. One more time. Animals must get their energy from the food they eat, or food. Four. Avery, can you read that for me?
Yes, I can. Process of fermentation does not use blood.
Do you know the answer to that?
Yeah.
What is it?
Oxygen.
Yep. Process of fermentation does not use oxygen. All right. Number 5. Why are animals unable to perform photosynthesis? Answer this in a complete sentence. Jake.
Animals are able to do photosynthesis because they are not plants.
Okay.
They
What's
they do not get their energy from the sun.
because they don't have?
Leaves.
What's the specific organelle that does photosynthesis?
One second, I got it.
You got it.
My brain's not up right now.
You're okay.
Chloroplast.
There you go. So animals are unable to perform photosynthesis because they don't have chloroplasts or chlorophyll. Again, I'll say that. Thank you for searching for your notes, Jake. I like that. Animals are unable to perform photosynthesis because they don't have chloroplasts. They don't get their energy from the sun directly.
Just like the foot.
Number 6, predict. Ryan, read that question for me.
What might happen if plants could not perform photosynthesis?
What do you think might happen, Ryan? Yeah, if plants could not perform photosynthesis, they would die.
Actually, there's a more specific answer.
Yeah.
They would die, and if all the plant life on Earth died, there would be nothing for the leaf eaters to eat. The tobacco temperature, I think it's herbivores.
Yep.
And if there were no herbivores left, there would be nothing for the carnivores to eat.
Yep.
So the wonderful circle of life would be dead.
Yep.
If
So,
it was dead.
yep, if plants could not perform photosynthesis, plants would die, therefore everything would die.
You can't even breathe if plants didn't do
Yeah,
photosynthesis
it'd
because
be a
there's
lot
nothing
less
for them to
oxygen.
throw away.
What's that?
Because there's nothing for plants to throw away.
A lot less oxygen, yep. So there you go. Photosynthesis is arguably one of the most important processes on this earth. Okay,
Everything.
and then number 7, relate or compare. How is fermentation different from cellular respiration? Somebody tell me how they're different.
This one I do not know. I don't know either. I do.
Sophia. Sophia?
I think fermentation is different from cellular respiration because does fermentation not need oxygen?
You nailed it. Fermentation is different from cellular respiration because fermentation does not use oxygen. Cellular respiration does. Cellular respiration is much more efficient at creating energy. You could have also said from yesterday that fermentation Fermentation occurs in cytoplasm. Cellular respiration occurs in the mitochondria. Yes?
But those are two completely different, right? I didn't even say structures like I was gonna, because cytoplasm isn't even a structure, it's
Yep.
jelly.
Yeah.
How could cytoplasm make energy, even if it's just two ATP?
It occurs in the cytoplasm. It's glycolysis. That's where it occurs.
How?
Chemically, I would have to look that up how it happens. I don't know specifically. So, the glucose is broken down in the cytoplasm. All right. So with that, I'm going to hand you fermentation notes, and we're going to talk about the alcoholic fermentation, because yesterday we talked about lactic acid. Nice job today, man. Awesome. That's the wrong one. The wrong one. Okay, I'm handing you the fermentation notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, fermentation is anaerobic. It requires no oxygen. We talked about Usain Bolt yesterday, yes? Or no?
Yeah.
Sprinters, people that are like heavy weightlifters. They're trying to lift certain things, a short burst of energy, which is different than people who run marathons and longer distance. Okay. Lactic acid builds up in the muscles, causing that soreness and that inability to perform after a short period of time, right? Another one was, we talked about the tennis ball, squeezing the tennis ball, right? You just do this. I don't have a tennis ball on me. But if I were to do this, what's going to happen eventually?
Squeeze your
Okay.
water bottle.
Your lactic acid buildup is going to not allow you to perform anymore. Not enough oxygen is getting to your muscles. Too much lactic acid. You are creating energy, but you don't have the oxygen to continue with cellular respiration, and that lactic acid will build up. We're going to move on to alcoholic fermentation. And this is the pathway that brews beer, wine, other alcohols, and how bread is made using yeast. Yes.
Are we doing a repair lab?
Yes, we'll do a root beer lab.
Are we gonna be making beer and wine?
No.
Sad employee.
No.
That's
Yes.
I remember this from a Dirty Jobs episode from my old science class.
Yep.
Doesn't in the process of making rum, which I think still is from yeast, doesn't it get something on the top of it and then they have to like skim it off?
Don't know.
Like,
I've never made rum.
Scum is very common.
Could be. Okay. So, Brock brings up a good point. These different types of alcohols are made from different types of fruits or products. So rum can be made from fermenting sugar, I believe. Like there's other whiskeys is made from like corn, okay, or rye, wheat, okay. So beer is another one of those, and wine. Okay, so here's what happens. Yeast is a fungus, okay? Yeast is a fungus. They're little tiny fungi. And maybe you've seen them in the grocery store, maybe you haven't. Okay, but they're like roundish and they come in like packages probably about this big. Okay, and they feed on sugar. Okay, feed on sugar, that glucose, C6H12O6 over there on the left hand side that you see. Yes? Okay, now when there's no oxygen present, then what they'll do is they'll starve them of oxygen. Okay, eventually all the oxygen in a spot. So like they put it in a bottle. What we're gonna do with our root beer is put it in a bottle. Okay, a big 2-liter bottle. Eventually, what happens? They are performing cellular respiration, right? That fungi is trying to eat the sugar, and it does, and it's breaking it down, using it to live, using it for energy. Eventually, what happens in that bottle? What's going to leave? What's going to be not there anymore? What's going to be all used up?
Sugar.
What's that?
Sugar.
Eventually. Before that, though, oxygen. Yes, thank you, Bella. The oxygen is going to be gone, right? If you were to stay in a closed area for a long period of time, or there's eventually, you run out of oxygen. Okay? Yes? So eventually it runs out of oxygen and cannot perform cellular respiration anymore. That brings us to alcoholic fermentation. And just like in lactic acid, up here, the glucose is then broken down into 2-pyruvate. Pyruvate is half of glucose, C3H6O3. Okay? They're doing that to make energy. And what's the energy gain for the yeast there? 2 ATP. All right? But the byproduct, the byproducts that yeast makes, your muscles make lactic acid. Your yeast, its byproducts are OH negative, which is alcohol, okay, and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is just air, right? So that's what causes bread to rise, okay, and that's what causes the fizziness of the root beer, right? Who's ever had a soda before? Everybody's probably had a soda before. What's like part of, do you like the flat soda?
Yes.
Some people do, but,
Like, what soda?
I like the sizzling stuff.
okay, but
I like the stuff
typically
that
people like to
explodes
crack
right
open a soda and you hear that, right? That's the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is escaping. Yeah, champagne
I had
also.
champagne before.
Okay, that's something you probably shouldn't advertise to the world.
You probably shouldn't tell someone.
Anyway, okay,
It's a popo.
so the byproducts of yeast performing fermentation are alcohol and carbon dioxide. And that's how alcoholic beverages are made. Okay, now wine is one that where grapes are fermented. Okay, so that's where, but there's typically not any fizz in wine, right? So that's where they will expel or like get rid of the carbon dioxide. Whereas in like beer, they want to keep that carbon dioxide. Because it provides some of that fizziness. In soda, you want that fizziness. Okay? You want that, well, typically you want that fizziness. Most people don't enjoy flat soda. It's just not, it's just not as appetizing. Okay, so we have now talked about photosynthesis, cellular respiration, and fermentation. The quiz for this will be on next Tuesday. That'll be October 19th. Okay. Tomorrow we'll review. Friday we have Mrs. Biva coming in. Okay.
Is that why we don't have the assessment on
Yep.
Friday anymore?
Yep.